Geek Out!
Hey, welcome to another installment, or I guess the first installment of To Be Determined, because TBD. After coming off the Beatles, I wanted to do something that wasn't Beatles, wasn't necessarily music, because I was kind of burned out on
There's no more Beatles to do.
Well, we could. I was thinking, we could do the Beatles movies. I was like, no, I need to come up for air.
We touched on those anyway.
Yeah. So, honestly, the major film franchises of my childhood were Star Wars, Star Trek, and Indiana Jones. And we've already done a commentary series for Star Wars. We've already done a commentary series for Star Trek.
For better or for worse.
Yeah. And so what we're doing now is I wanted to, uncover that last little one. So, and of course, for this one, the rest of the Geek Out guys have totally seen the Indiana Jones film, so we have a full complement for this little 4-episode series. Gentlemen, if you care to introduce yourself to the listeners at home.
I'm Chris.
I'm Chuck.
And so we're starting at Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is probably the one I remember the most from my childhood. From a technical standpoint, I've had this discussion on so many different things. From a technical standpoint, Sgt. Pepper's is totally my favorite Beatles album, but it's not my favorite. From a technical standpoint, Raiders of the Lost Ark is the best Indiana Jones movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not my favorite.
No.
Yes.
I believe you and I stand together on this, being that it's Last Crusade for both of us.
Yeah, which isn't a slight to Raiders of the Lost Ark at all.
Not at all.
It's just, Jake, you were saying that this was a...
This is the greatest action-adventure film ever made. There is never going to get better than this. And that's not a slight to you Last Crusade people. But, this is it by Michael Jackson. There's the quick story that I probably told a million times before, but when I was a little kid, I hate spiders. My parents rented this movie for me, and that opening scene with Senor, and it turns around and all the spiders are on and tarantulas. I turned it off and vowed never to watch Doc. I vowed never to watch the movie because I was terrified. And of course, I came to my senses, years later, and watched it, and as a young boy, man-child, and it changed my life. This made me a Harrison Ford fan before Star Wars made me a Harrison Ford fan, and it's just the most wonderful action adventure movie ever. It's just perfect. It's a perfect film. I talk about The Exorcist being like a perfectly paced film. I think Raiders of the Lost Ark is a perfect film. There's not very many out there, but I think it hits everything, every note. It's awesome. And again, I think a lot of people forget how instrumental George Lucas is to this. He's a guy that can take his influences better, not better than anyone, but he can take his influences and build off that almost better than anyone, because that's what he's been doing his whole career.
Yeah, with Star Wars, obviously.
Yeah.
No, this one's huge. It's huge. And it came about from Steven Spielberg really wanted to direct a James Bond movie, coming off of Jaws, and at the time, the Eon Productions, the studio behind the James Bond films, only entrusted the franchise to veteran British directors, which they eventually broke with Die Another Day, which was directed by Lee Tamahori, who's from New Zealand. And then
they learned their lesson that day.
Yeah, and coincidentally, Quantum of Solace also is directed by a Swiss-born director, which
that's
many
way
people,
better.
But many people would argue that Quantum is one of the weakest Craig films of 4.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing to get into, but it's not my least favorite Craig film. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and so he's hanging out, the Spielbergs and the Lucases are hanging out at the beach building a sandcastle. And Spielberg is telling George Lucas his ambitions to direct a James Bond movie. And George Lucas had conceived this character named Indiana Smith. That he wanted to make for, if Star Wars is kind of like the Buck Rogers, John Carter, tropes, all his sci-fi, pulp sci-fi interests, then this is Indiana Jones is part. You would argue part Doc Savage, part the serials from the 30s.
It's all the pulp stuff on, realistic, not realistic, but it's all the pulp Earthbound stuff.
Yeah,
like you're saying, Flash Gordon, everything in space and Star Wars. and this is very much. I don't know if Doc Savage is one of them, but anything pulpy like that. You take that, you got the fedora, the pistols,
the leather jacket.
the leather jacket, and you're good to go.
Yeah. And Lucas tells Spielberg the idea. And Spielberg's like, I love it, but I don't like the name. Mm-hmm. He's like, well, why don't we just call him Indiana Jones? And that's how it was just that.
As if Lucas had already been like, Indiana Smith is a pretty dumb name. What else could I say? Indiana Jones, that has a nice ring to it. But I'm going to still start with Smith because that was my first idea.
Better than Indiana Brown. Whatever. I'm just thinking of like other generic Anglo last names. And so they got Jim Steranko to do the concept art, which really helps visualize stuff. I actually have a piece of not original, but a reprint of some concept art from Raiders drawn by Steranko, and I got him to autograph it. That legendary time in Philadelphia where me and Jim Steranko crossed paths. And originally they wanted Tom Selleck. Like Spielberg suggested Harrison Ford based on, Harrison Ford up and coming. Obviously Star Wars is coming out at this point. Empire Strikes Back is wrapping production. And Lucas, who's stayed on as not just a concept or a writer, but also a producer for this, was like, I don't want him to become like what Robert De Niro is to like Scorsese. And so they originally approached Tom Selleck. Have you guys seen the Tom Selleck screen test stuff?
Yeah.
What do you think of it?
It's not terrible because he still has like the same, kind of like,
charisma.
Yeah. From what I remember, he's a bit like fuller of a man, which which ultimately, after seeing the product with Harrison Ford in it, I like Harrison Ford's like bit leaner look, but I think remove what later became Indiana Jones, I would have still bought it. With Tom Selleck, I think it still would have been an enjoyable piece. But like, it's not like looking at like the Eric Stoltz, Back to the Future stuff. Where you're just like, oof, no, that's wrong. It's fine, but it's not perfect. With Harrison Ford, it was perfect. It like the straight piece in Tetris came down and you killed all 5 rows.
Jake, what do you think of Mr. Selleck?
Mr. Thomas?
I don't know what more I could add to that. Because I agree with most of it. I don't know about Tetris, but it.
He fights the Russians in the 4th one.
But yeah, I mean he's got the charisma. Tom Selleck's got it. In an alternate world somewhere, it's that's their Indiana Jones. It works perfectly. It's like Stallone as the Terminator,
and they're sitting back going, can you believe that Harrison Ford almost became Indiana Jones? Although in that alternate world, it probably was Indiana Smith.
Yeah, yeah, wonderful
Indiana
mustache.
Brown.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tom Selleck is Indiana Brown.
I always thought he was too gruff.
I can see that.
Tom Selleck was
Tom Selleck.
Yeah, because you watch that screen test and he's much more abrasive.
Yeah, I mean, his Indiana Jones would have been a lot more gruff. I mean, I think
at least based on that screen test.
Yeah, maybe, but Harrison Ford definitely dials it up here and there in the gruff factor.
Well, though I mean, it's the scene. The screen test is the scene where he first meets Marion, and he's like, "Shut up," and like stuff like that. It's just like, oh wow, okay.
Yeah, I mean, again, look, in our universe, the right guy got the part. Because Harrison Ford, I mean, hell, look at Episode 7. Like that dude just seems not to like Han Solo, and it's not a character he loves. As he said multiple times. But Indiana Jones is one that he's like. I remember back before Indiana Jones 4 came out, and he was doing an interview for something. I don't know what it was, and they're like, "Would you play
Hollywood Homicide?"
Yeah, no, even before that, and he was like, they're like, "Would you play Han Solo again?" He's like, boring, foreign characters, boring. And then he's like, "Well, what about Indiana Jones?" He's like, "In a New York minute." And so, and that got my hopes. I was like, "Oh shit, he's gonna play him again." He did, but yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but Tom Selleck, of course, famously, didn't play Indiana Jones.
Yeah, he basically what happened to Timothy or Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah. Remington Steeled.
Yeah,
Magnum PI'd.
Yeah, he got Magnum PI'd in this case.
Yeah.
Now
he's on Blue Bloods.
Yeah, now he's on Blue Bloods. 7 seasons strong.
Yeah.
Father of Bridget Moynihan and Donnie Wahlberg on that show. Yeehaw. My aunt loves Blue Bloods.
My parents love Blue Bloods.
Yeah.
My grandma met Tom Selleck once.
Yeah. Was he nice?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, she said he was a nice guy. I like Tom Selleck.
I'm fine with Tom Selleck. My father loves the Jesse Stone movies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, fuck, of course. He's probably like, I should have named him Jesse. But I mean, I'm trying to think. Like, I know out there because everything comes back to like, who would you cast in a superhero film? Tom Selleck is like made for a superhero role somewhere. Like
young Tom Selleck or Tom Selleck now, I think.
Well,
Tom Selleck now would be an awesome like Commissioner Gordon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Young Tom Selleck would be an awesome Hawkman.
Ooh.
Yes. Yes, I could. Yeah.
With that chest.
Younger Tom Selleck, Doc Savage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tall. He's lean.
Yeah. Although, like, no, that could work. The Man of Bronze.
Yeah, you can get rid of the mustache.
No, not the mustache. I'm saying just thinking like the whole
Excuse
like the
no,
whole,
he cannot.
Yeah, the whole Man of Bronze.
Be like Timothy Dalton shaving off his mustache, like he did for Bond.
Yeah, well, he did.
And then he got the crazy scraggly hair.
Yeah, Mr. Prickle Pants.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, The Rock's playing Doc Savage.
Yeah,
he's got the bigger frame. But who else? Who else could Tom Selleck play? Let's just hold this whole thing becomes who Tom Selleck plays.
Yeah.
Wildcat. I mean, I know Stallone is the perfect one, but
Yeah,
if
but
Stallone
Stallone-
passes
Yeah.
on it.
Heaven forbid. Passes on.
No, he's not. You know what's gonna happen. I got him. I'm gonna get him back when that happens.
Yeah.
As you've famously predicted in a Facebook status.
Yeah, the Facebook. Yeah, if Sylvester Stallone ever died, Jake Bozick would build a giant robot to fight with God.
You give him back.
And you would like name it after the robot from Rocky 4.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Polly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that could be your next series, the Rockies.
We did those.
We did the commentaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another perfect film. But we're not
Yeah.
Not just one perfect shot.
Yeah.
All perfect shots.
Yeah.
perfect
What was?
shots.
I mean, Jake and I have kind of discussed it. What was your intro or childhood memories of Raiders or just Indiana Jones in general?
Oddly enough, my strongest childhood memory of Indiana Jones is actually from Temple of Doom with the heart, habachua, all that fun stuff. Or watching Last Crusade, because I want to say we had Temple and Crusade on beta back when my parents still had a Betamax machine. And I actually don't really remember seeing Raiders until I was like 10-ish when I watched it at a friend's house. And I was just like, this is even cooler. Like it had the melting faces. It had the guy with the stuff burned in his hand,
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing Raiders until, I mean, I'm still young, but later in life.
Yeah.
In comparison to the others.
Kind of like me in Back to the Future 2. Like, I saw Back to the Future 1, and for years that was it. And then I saw Back to the Future 3, and I was like, okay, I don't know why he's in the West, but okay. And then, like, years after that, I finally saw Back to the Future 2. I was like, oh, okay, now the story's
Now it all
complete.
makes sense.
You know what like really got me going, getting really into Indiana Jones in 4th grade. I get I think I got did I get a cavity? I think cavity or something with teeth or braces or something. And my mom was like at like the local
braces at 4th grade. That's early.
Yeah. And my mom was at the local Giant or shopping center or whatever while I was getting whatever teeth work I was getting done. And she found a copy of the audio book of Indiana Jones: The Last Crusade, book on tape, read by the Fat Man of Jake of the Fat Man fame.
Oh, yeah.
And which I still have. And I used to fall asleep to it every night. And so...
how fitting that it was the Fat Man because you are Jake.
Yeah. It's me. And, and
that's the plot twist. Jake is the Fat Man.
Yeah. I listened to
Smokey and the Bandit 3.
Yeah.
Smokey is the Bandit.
I listened to it like every night, and that really helped kickstart getting back into Indiana Jones and whatnot.
Nice.
And of course, but for some reason it was just Raiders was the one that grabbed my attention more so than Temple or Crusade.
I feel like probably the desire to see the Indiana Jones movies came in mostly, I'm sure similarly to you guys, because of Harrison Ford, being such huge Star Wars, fans. Like I was just like, Harrison Ford is in more movies?
Well, I think a big factor is my grandparents were never into Star Wars. They weren't sci-fi people at all. But they could get behind this gruff action guy kicking the shit out of Nazis.
Who can't?
They could totally do that. So that was a film that literally, coming together for Thanksgiving, that fresh off of that and going into Christmas and everything, that was a movie that the entire family, an entertaining film, not like fucking It's a Wonderful Life or something. It's a Wonderful Life.
Mm-hmm.
He fucking commits suicide. Like, how dark is It's a Wonderful Life, if you think about it?
It's about as dark as the real holidays, man.
Yeah. The holiday blues, Jimmy Stewart status. But no, the Indiana Jones films, particularly Raiders and Last Crusade, were something where the entire family could come together and watch. So there's a strong. I need to do a full walk of my mind palace, but there's a good chance that Indiana Jones might have come into the mix before Star Wars, not before Star Trek, but certainly before.
I don't think any movie has had a bigger impact, like franchise wise. Like I love James Bond and stuff, but that didn't come till later.
Yeah.
I don't think any movie like set a foundation for me loving movies and becoming obsessed with an actor and becoming a fan of an actor because said movie or whatever than Indiana Jones. Like when we were going to Disney World when I was a younger kid, I owned like so many different fedoras. And my favorite thing was when I was in college and I had like an actual job and money, I was able to I bought the official replica of it. I was Indiana Jones this past Halloween. I've been Indiana Jones like 7 times in my life.
How many times have you ever been to Indiana Jones for Halloween?
I have not.
Oh,
so many times. I have. It's like 5 or 6 times. But like
I've been Batman.
And taking going to like Disney World and like making my parents take me to MGM so I can go to the stunt show. It's not a trip unless I go to the stunt show.
Have you ridden the ride where you're like on the Jeep thing?
No, that's at Disneyland.
I've been to Disneyland.
Yeah, I've not been to Disneyland. Yeah, just Disney World.
Is it still open?
I haven't been there in a decade, but it was when I was there. Yeah.
So yeah. Just thinking about it more and more, like that. It's the first soundtrack of a movie I ever bought was Raiders of the Lost Ark. The first thing I ever watched was behind the scenes. I rented from the library The Making of Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is a fucking great documentary about the making of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Aptly titled.
Yeah. Indiana Jones is to you as Back to the Future is to me.
Yeah,
I did the same stuff.
This predates Rocky. This predates. The only thing that comes before this is Batman and the Rocketeer.
Yeah. Next time I'm in Florida because they have Jacques now in downtown Disney.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah. That bar.
We should just make a Geek Out trip down there.
I would love to. I would love to fulfill my life's work of getting drunk around Epcot. That's always been a professional aspect because there's 11 countries. They serve alcohol 24 hours.
Yeah.
So
let's do it.
Well, not 24 hours. They're not open 24 hours.
Probably more like 17 hours.
Yeah.
At best.
No, if anything, it's like, because it's like, I want to say like 9 to, they close at like 9 to 9, I think. Maybe later during the summers or like on the weekends, but yeah. So, no, I would love to. That's always been an aspiration of mine. And I've never actually been to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter.
I've been itching to go there.
Yeah. Have you ever been?
No.
Okay. I certainly,
I've been to Disney World a couple times in my life.
Though my favorite thing in any Disney situation, and I've mentioned this to Josh Williamson, who wrote the book, is the Haunted Mansion.
No.
I love Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, but that's not a thing anymore.
No, I know. They took that. They took 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and they took
prequel.
Yeah.
2000 Leagues.
They're just kind of like, we're getting down there. They took out the skyboxes. They took out so fucking much.
Oh, the skyboxes, really?
Did they leave It's a Small World after all?
It's a Small World. Well, I feel like is one of those like staples. That the Dumbos and the maybe that's it, because I was about to say Mr. Toad's. Oh, I can't say that anymore. But I love like Thunder Mountain Railroad.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh.
That is the Splash Mountain.
I've actually never ridden either of those, Splash Mountain or Thunder Mountain.
It's a time. It's a lovely time. Space Mountain is
sidebar.
just
If we
shit.
do want to go to Disney, I have one of my coworkers is a I don't know.
Goofy.
No.
Goofy?
Goofy. Goofy Anand?
No, up here. Lives up here. One of my coworkers is, I don't know if it's like quote unquote like certified or anything, but she is a travel agent that works with Disney, so she can hook us up with getting everything except for transportation down there.
You just walk.
Yeah. It'll take like a month, but we'll walk.
Be tight.
Yeah. Anyway, Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I love me some Indiana Jones. Now, what I always love about every single Indiana Jones installment, they always take the Paramount logo, and it always turns into something. What are they going to do now that Lucasfilm is owned by Disney?
I'm sad.
It's like the Magic Kingdom, Cinderella's castle, and it turns into a pile of shit.
Yeah.
It just turns into like a castle that they're raiding shit from.
Yeah, but
maybe it'll still be co-produced by Paramount.
Yeah, I mean, how cool is the prologue to this film, though?
Yeah.
Everything you need to know about the character before he even says a word.
Speaking of which, if I may derail real quickly. So when I used to work at an old movie theater, which did film projection, I was cleaning out the projection booth once, and I actually found actual snippets from the prologue of Raiders. Here, let me unwind it for you so you don't worry about breaking it or anything. The color has gone because it's an old print, but like there, right here, the first bit, that's the mountain that we were just talking about. That
turns it from the Paramount Mountain. Yeah, it takes
and it like goes all the way until I think I actually have like Harrison Ford's name. Is that it right there? No, that's the
production company. But I mean, it's a good. I'd say this is about a minute or 2 minute worth of film right here. If you guys want to check it out while we're talking about it. Would you call this prologue the most iconic thing in the entire, in all of Indian, like with the golden idol statue and everything?
I would. It's so prolific that Weird Al. He used it as he parodied it in the prologue for his movie UHF.
Being chased by an actual boulder because there was an actual big cement block, kids.
Yeah, and he fell on purpose to freak everybody out. Yeah, I mean it's pretty iconic, man. The idol and
would you call it the most iconic?
Most iconic Indiana Jones thing ever?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think when people think of Indiana Jones, like, oh, the boulder, that and just the hat. But again, I have a hard time, looking at this movie like a normal human being because I've seen this movie so many times. But yeah, I mean, I think yes, the outside, just anybody. You ask anybody who's like, they haven't even seen Indiana Jones. You'd be like, Indiana Jones, like, oh, the boulder, the boulder. And so yeah, I mean, it's the best, most iconic. Certainly the most iconic opening in any Indiana Jones movie, I'd say.
Yes, absolutely.
It follows the James Bond formula.
Yeah, with
the cold open has nothing to do with the rest of the movie. I mean, it has that there, but the movie does not revolve around the idol.
Right.
We are jumping into a story. We're not jumping into the beginning of their journey. He's already met all these dudes.
Yeah, it's not Lethal Weapon 2.
Yeah, well, it is Lethal Weapon 2 because he's jumping into the middle of the story.
But like that kickstarts the story for Lethal Weapon 2.
Yeah. But I mean, it jumps us in the middle of the story. It's not like he's hiring these men. Like they're at the end of a multi-day walk through the jungle.
We presume all the adventures we see in Raiders or any of the subsequent films have all the lead-up actions have already happened. This is the crowning moment.
Yeah, and also it's funny to think, and we'll get more into this in the Temple of Doom thing, but it's funny to think that in chronological status, all of Temple of Doom has already happened to Indiana Jones at this moment.
Yeah.
That's always just a weird little mind fuck for me. But
which is also weird because the skepticism he expresses when like Marcus is telling him to be careful before he leaves to get the Ark of the Covenant. He's like, you sound like my mother. He's like, this doesn't scare me. Plus I'm how careful a guy I am anyway. It's like, but you've seen like crazy shit with like Shankara stones and like dudes getting their hearts ripped out.
Yeah,
and then if the chronicles or adventures of young Indiana Jones are to be believed, you've seen some crazy shit there too.
Yeah,
all easily explained by a bunch of mumbo jumbo. What's his line in Star Wars when he's explaining the Force?
Oh yeah. Hokey religions and all that is no match for a blaster. Yeah. But
it's a lot of smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. So I mean, and again, like you guys were saying, Alfred Molina,
Mm-hmm.
and the originally when they did the tarantula scene that scared away young Jake, they were all like, was it male or female tarantulas? I think they were all female tarantulas, and so like they just kind of like.
That was his first day of filming.
Was it?
That was the first day of Alfred Molina's filming. It was Welcome to Indiana Jones.
I mean,
put a spider on your face.
Yeah.
And he, like, Alfred Molina, like, Harrison Ford has a couple.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Alfred Molina is loaded up.
Well, that's the joke,
Like,
right?
loaded up with
he's
spiders.
wearing a jacket of spiders.
Yeah. The joke is like he's like Senor because he's got like Indy's got maybe
He's got like,
4.
Yeah, he's got like one on his shoulder and then like 2 on his back or something
Got
like
a
that.
couple. Enough.
And then of course like Alfred Molina sees the one on his shoulder and he's like, oh, and then he turns around and Harrison Ford kind of almost like turns to the camera a bit when Alfred Molina first turns around, kind of like, oh shit,
Yeah,
you know,
just with the whip, just
because his
boom.
entire back
And
is
you can
covered.
hear like the thump of them hitting the ground,
And them
that
scurrying around.
that one goes over his chest, and he's like, oh, you
Yeah.
know,
which is probably not him.
I think
acting.
it was the Nerdist where he says like his first day of filming, or maybe it was somewhere else I read, was that like his first day of filming was.
I mean,
the
that
spider
doesn't
scene.
surprise me too much because I can't imagine he was on set for that many days. He's only in the prologue.
And he's all. I mean, that's all on location. I would
Yeah,
assume.
yeah.
Except
I mean,
for
there's
the
some big
stuff inside the.
There's some stunts he has to
temple.
do, and you know the whip thing and through the whip stuff. But
Yeah, that stunt probably took a whole day.
Yeah,
mhm.
I will
Touche.
say the So originally they're all female spiders on Alfred Molina's back, so they're not really moving.
Mhm.
And so Spielberg's like, we gotta do something to make the audience know that it's real spiders. And they're like, well, the trainer was like, you have to add a male spider. So they added one male spider, and that's what sent them all like fucking like the one that scurries across.
Ladies.
Yeah,
Um,
that'll scatter women away anytime you throw in one douche.
every
One fuck boy.
yeah, every Indiana Jones movie has its like critter,
Mm-hmm.
and
This one has 2.
is well, yeah. I mean, snakes is a thing all throughout,
Yeah.
really, but yeah, spiders, man, holy shit.
In a way, everything you need to know about, and I already said that, like his nemesis fucking shows up,
Mm-hmm.
and his like fear
Belloc.
of snakes.
Belloc.
Belosh.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just I don't know. So many things. I think the most iconic moment for me, if we're like the most iconic moment inside the most iconic moment,
Yeah.
for me isn't necessarily the boulder. It's him.
Is it the idol?
It's him getting the idol. The scrap his face with the sand. When I was a kid, I didn't know what he was doing at first with the sand. Like
Yeah.
and then of course he's weighing it. His best, and he does the little that for me, that whole moment of like the music stops.
Mm-hmm.
Like and John Williams. I mean, it's the first time I really think you really think about music and everything, and taking over a movie, and like
Raiders March for Star Wars theme.
Raiders.
That's tough.
I think I'm gonna go Star Wars.
I mean, I love me some Star
Oh,
Wars.
I mean,
but
we all love Star Wars.
but-
yeah.
but not fuck Star Wars compared to Indiana Jones.
I think if I were to step back
Fuck
and look
it.
at it objectively, much like the like Raiders is the best movie, but Last Crusade's my favorite. I think for me it's going to be Star Wars because of nostalgia, but I think I could look at it objectively and be like, but Indiana Jones probably the better overall theme. Just because it has that like I think that dun da 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 dun da da like probably a better swell.
Also, that is his Popeye spinach thing, where whenever they play that theme, he doesn't get hit. He doesn't get hurt.
Yeah.
Whenever they play the Indy, like the Raiders March,
That's his-
You'll see it in every movie. He gets this surge, and he can't. It's like a cheat. He's invincible. He doesn't.
It's his Mario star power.
There's one moment where he's like hit, but it doesn't phase him, and that's in Temple of Doom. But every other time the Raiders March plays, it's like you put in the cheat mode, and that dude's fucking unstoppable, and it's awesome. It's like
just up, down, left, right, BA start.
it's. I think one of the reasons I love and I know we're focused on Raiders particularly, but one of the reasons I love Raiders is because I can remember watching that movie and seeing it happen on the screen and having that like moment where like you're fighting along with like I don't do that anymore. I don't stand up during Star Wars. I'm like, yo, like I did that. But like when I was a little kid, I can remember standing up during like the airports, when he's fighting the big German, the big Nazi.
It looks like Zangief.
Yeah. He's fighting him,
Nazi
and then
Zangief.
the moment that like always like made me like almost just fucking weep because I loved it so much was the whole sequence with the truck, and then he gets on the horse and he's like riding and all the guys are like, yeah, they're cheering for him, and like he's playing the Raiders March, and I don't know, the whole thing, man.
Let's jump ahead to that real quick because
Okay,
we can do this in any. We don't have to do this in the order of the film.
Yeah.
This is whatever we want. It's
Yeah.
a conversation about Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
is that what
And
we're
also
talking about?
because like I know what a fucking perfect title. Like it's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
most like, and it's not it's not Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost
I
Ark.
always
It's
get
just,
annoyed when I see that too.
Yeah.
Like Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's just Raiders.
just
of the Lost
Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's such a fucking badass title because Indy's a raider. The Nazis are the raider. Like they're all going for this
I
thing.
would have liked it if it was like the other things were just called the Temple of Doom,
The Temple
or
of Doom
the Last
and-
Crusade,
Yeah.
or
I mean, that very well could have been, but you know how people are with like it's the you know
kind of like
the
how
name
like,
sells.
Yeah, kind of like how Marvel's Agents of Shield.
It'd be like it's funny because
It's just like the Rambo movies. You know, they start off.
oh well, that's
First
a whole
Blood.
fucking mess. Yeah, First Blood, Rambo, First Blood Part 2, Rambo 3, and then there's like Rambo 4. John Rambo, the fight continues. Like
Rambo
there's-
to Hell and Back.
Yeah, there's so many different
Last
depending
titles.
on
Blood.
what territory you're in.
Yeah,
Yeah. But no. So that's my favorite action sequence in the entire
Oh, the
film.
truck sequence?
The truck sequence, hands down.
And then it's
Fucking amazing.
recycled in Return of the Jedi with the speeder chase through the forest of Endor.
But you know what the speeder chase doesn't have? It doesn't have a guy that I thought was Crocodile Dundee getting run over by a truck.
Touche. Is that what it needed? That, you know what, I do now that I'm thinking of it, that is what the Return of the Jedi was missing. Crocodile Dundee soft.
I remember one time
or Diet Crocodile Dundee.
I was getting.
Am I the only one that mistook?
I mean, I didn't think it was him, but I could see it.
Yeah, same.
But
I feel like I was introduced
again-
to those
then again-
characters around the same time.
Yeah. Then again, I technically still haven't been introduced to Crocodile Dundee, so I've never seen any of the movies.
First movie I ever saw in theaters. I don't remember it, but was
Oh.
Crocodile Dundee.
I remember I had a babysitter once, and I was like, we have to watch Raiders of the Lost Ark. And so we did, and I told her every single blooper, because I had watched the making of, I had read every book I could about it, and I knew every blooper that happened in Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I think she turned to me at the end of it, she's like, I can't watch this movie ever again. Because it makes it, one of my favorite like little bloopers, besides the famous fly scene, is when Indy is sitting. I mean, it's still a fucking astounding stunt, but Indy is, he gets thrown over the hood and he's like grabbing the grill and he's holding on like this, and they have that shot from Belloc's people, and he's driving. You could see him sitting on the little seat as he's sitting there, and you realize that's a fucking man sitting in front. He's still, but still.
Yeah.
And I love that like Indy's stuntman. I don't remember his name, but Harrison.
First name is Clint.
Is it Clint?
Yeah. It's like,
And he was like, he's like,
yeah,
because he looks so
if
much
you learned
like
how
him.
to act, I'd be
Yeah,
out
if you
of
could
business.
speak, I'm in fucking trouble.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
no, it's Vic Armstrong
okay, yeah, and then that scene where Indy
Clint
Harrison
Vic Armstrong.
Harrison, oh, that's a name.
on his mother's side.
Harrison Ford like bruised the shit out of his ribs because he's actually
had-
being dragged
yeah.
across the back.
And he got dysentery. Like
Yeah.
a lot of the cast and crew got
That's-
dysentery drinking like the water in Tunisia. I think.
Well, the
they-
happy accident that came because of that is, of course, the sword fight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
originally
whip,
there was
yeah.
supposed to be this huge, like everybody knows. I'm assuming that people listening to this have actually seen Raiders of the Lost Ark. If not, call me and we'll watch Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Mhm.
But I don't need any excuse to watch this film. The
Come on over to my house. I have it on Laserdisc.
yeah, you can get it in,
Because that's the selling point.
There was supposed to be this huge scripted the fight scene that the climax of the marketplace fight was supposed to be Indy fighting this guy, this master swordsman with a whip, and they like rehearsed it, and Ford, who's got dysentery and is like, I presume, shitting his brains out.
Mhm. He looks terrible in that scene
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, he looks.
Yeah, you can see it.
Yeah, he's like, why don't I just pull out a gun and shoot him? And Spielberg was just like, who's I think also suffering from dysentery.
No, if I remember correctly, Spielberg is actually one of the only people that doesn't, because he's so paranoid and picky about
He's
what
a
he
bit
eats
of a hypochondriac.
that he actually has all of his food prepared in America, shipped out to where they're shooting, and then heat it up there.
Yeah,
You know what's
but
funny?
like, for the most part, it's all prepared
yeah.
back here in America.
You know what's funny about that scene is that he reaches for the gun, shoots him. In Temple of Doom, he does the same thing, and the gun's not there. So they're doing a callback to a scene that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
So, like, in terms of that happening, that means that. And again, I know it's all that movie hadn't happened yet, and blah blah blah, and that's a callback. That's why it's fun.
Yeah.
But it's only because of the year difference, because they don't deal with Nazis. Is that Indiana Jones in this chronological universe remembered that he didn't have his gun, and now is like, I have my gun, and I'm going to shoot you. Like, that's what's
And
going on in that process.
The trailer, I mean, the callback, the scene in Raiders is so iconic of him shooting the swordsman that the scene of him reaching in Temple of Doom for the gun is in the trailer.
Yeah.
And then the last scene in the trailer is him looking up, like realizing he has no gun as he faces the two swordsmen and like giving like the kind of the sheepish like I'm fucked smile.
Yeah.
You know, you get that. I think is that what makes Indiana Jones so endearing? That like this dude gets fucked, like he gets beat up left, right, and center, but he just keeps on ticking.
Well, I think that, but I mean, it's also like
he's not as impervious as Bond or Han Solo.
The biggest difference between him and Han Solo, is Han gets fucked pretty hard,
and Pierce Brosnan's Bond gets fucked up, at least in GoldenEye.
But here's the biggest difference between Indiana Jones and Han Solo for me.
But I'll agree with you otherwise.
One word: smug. Han Solo is a smug motherfucker, and smug can go so far where like, and Han Solo doesn't go this far, but he teeters on this edge of like smug asshole.
Yeah.
And he is a smuggler. Get the fuck out of here. But like that's so bad. But the
after my own heart.
Yeah, sorry guys. But you know, I think Indiana Jones is not smug. He's a guy that like you could see yourself you know, you can relate to Indiana Jones. Yeah. Is it because he's getting punched in the mouth? Because if I was in a fight I'd be getting punched in the mouth over and over again. But you better damn well, you know, bet if someone had like, hey Jake, and they put on the Raiders March, I might stand up again, get punched in the face again,
but not be impervious,
because the Raiders March is playing. But I think you're right. There's a part of that, Sam, like, you know, and that charm is huge, you know, that Harrison Ford has with Indiana Jones, more so I think than any other character he's played.
Yeah, and of course I feel like that's just right in his wheelhouse.
Yeah,
you know. There are some darker elements that you can actually like find the oral history of, like they audio recorded Spielberg, I forget which, I think it was Frank Marshall and Lucas hashing out the story, and it was Spielberg that was pushing for Marion to be like basically underage when she first meets like Indy, and like in the audio recordings.
I was about to say, if you like listen to their backstory, they're talking about something like 10 years ago or something like that. Yeah. She's in her mid-20s there.
Yeah.
You're like, ugh.
So she's
young
like
was she when
she was like a teenager, yeah. And like Spielberg's like, I think it would be fun if, and it's like, no.
How is that ever a good idea?
Yeah. And like the scene,
Spielberg does love putting children in peril, though.
I mean,
so it's like his way of doing that without actually having children on set.
And the scene where Marcus talks to Indy at his house, like when he's packing, the reason Indy's wearing a bathrobe is because he was like
banging a student.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm glad that got snipped out, you know?
Yeah. And like,
although there's hinting at it, you know, with the whole like
love you.
Yeah. It's very clear that like every
and the boy student that puts an apple on his desk very embarrassed, but it's like, I love you.
Yeah. Don't think of this, but think of this.
Yeah. And then Marcus takes it, and then the boy turns around. He's like, the wrong guy took it.
It had a
lost in his own museum.
Yeah.
I mean, oh yeah, that's some weird shit.
Those are like things that I'm so glad got like left out of the mix, or are only subtly implied. Mm-hmm. You know, because it's implied that like basically any woman that takes his class is there just to like ogle at Dr. Henry Jones Jr.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Junior.
Yeah. So I'm glad those elements. One deleted scene. There's two deleted scenes that I think kind of fill in some plot holes. First deleted scene. How did Indiana Jones know not to look at the Ark? Yeah,
that's something that has kind of like, you know, nowadays that'd be something that people would maybe fucking articles written about it. 30 things that are unforgivable about Raiders of the Lost Ark. BuzzFeed's 10 what the fuck moments. This has just been forgiven for like, he just knows. You know, he's an archaeologist. He would have read somewhere. You close your eyes, you don't look at the Ark. But like you're saying, there's a deleted scene.
The scene where they're finding about how to measure the staff of Ra, which he uses in the Well of Souls, or to figure out where the Well of Souls is. There's a deleted scene where they're reading it and they're like, oh, you can't look on God's like magnificent glory. You have to. And so when he realizes what's going on at the climax of the film, he's like, oh, that's when he's like, Marion, don't look at it.
Get your eyes shut. Then he's like, they're digging in the wrong place.
They're digging in the wrong place.
Yeah.
They're digging in the wrong place.
He catches the bad deed.
dead Nazi monkey.
Yeah.
Thank Christ.
Yeah.
Little cappuccino fuck.
The only good Nazi monkey is a dead Nazi monkey.
Yeah. Somehow that means they spent how long training it to like Nazi salute?
Probably 2 seconds.
Yeah, it's not a very good. I mean, is there a good?
Good.
Nazi salute?
It's an oxymoron.
I mean, it's just.
Yeah.
It's just.
It's not a.
It's like having a fit.
It's not a complex.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, the monkey does that salute, and the one Nazi stooge is like, "Should we do it back?" Yeah, he's like, "Oh."
And the other deleted
Dumb
scene,
Nazi stooges.
Yeah.
like when he sneaks on board the Nazi sub,
Yeah.
he lashes himself to the top of the sub.
Yeah.
And you don't see that, so you
It's
just
another thing put in the thank God non-existent plot hole bullshit article.
Yeah.
How does he survive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does he hold his breath for that long?
yeah.
Because they
It's
go
something
underwater
that's-
because they go fucking underwater.
Yeah.
They're not sitting there on like that'd be a pointless thing.
Yeah.
It's-
What's the point of a submarine if it doesn't
So
go
yeah,
underwater?
how did
it's-
Indiana Jones survive?
It's something that never really bothered me, but then someone like pointed it out, and I was like, oh, yeah, oh yeah, how does he?
Yeah.
Because it's a perfect movie. Fuck off.
Yeah.
Next question.
They're digging in the wrong place.
I'm the ruler of the sea. Solitary whoosh. And then he kisses that one guy and they go, oh.
There's a simpler time. You could
Yeah.
just kiss dudes at the docks.
Sala.
Yeah.
Sala.
You could just-
Sala,
What do you think of
Sala.
Sala?
I love
I
Sala.
love Sala.
Sala, Jonathan. This is obviously the first time I've ever seen Jonathan Rhys
Yep.
Yeah.
Davies.
To me, he's that's his role. That's
Yeah.
It's also Gimli, right?
yeah.
and the voice of Treebeard.
Oh, he is? Oh, I feel like I knew that, but I
Yeah.
just remember now. So
He's also in The Name of the King, a Dungeon Siege tale starring Jason Statham.
Isn't he in one of the Bonds too?
Yes, he's Pushkin in The Living Daylights.
Yes.
So the 80s were a fantastic decade.
But Sala
Jump
is
Into the fire.
Sala's one of those examples of like such a like
the wrong movie.
yeah, it's all right though. The
Oh yeah, that's View to a Kill. Damn it.
like
Sorry.
just like that perfect best friend character
Yeah.
that like is impossible to hate. Like you love Sala. He's never overused. He's one of the biggest things that you miss in Temple of Doom.
Yeah.
Because he's back obviously for Last Crusade, and he's got a bigger, more extensive part, and does it wonderfully. But Sala, like, it's just such a great friendship. Even though really, if you think about it, you don't really see it that much. But it comes from the chemistry of Harrison Ford.
And Jonathan Rhys.
And Jonathan Rhys-Meyers. And
I was always kind of bothered that the when Indy confronts Belloc in the hookah bar or whatever, after he thinks Marion's dead, you want to talk to God?
Let's talk to him right now. I got nothing better to do. I remember watching it and I was just like, this is fucking dark.
Yeah. And all the
You wanna get
Nazis
nuts?
almost shoot him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Sala's kids save him. Why the fuck do they care? They're like
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
They're
good-
Nazis.
Yeah. They're just like, and they all like laugh. Oh, again, simpler time.
Yeah.
Okay, to cycle it back a bit. What is Marion drinking against in the Tibetan bar?
When you say drinking against,
Yeah. What do you mean against another person?
Her, yes.
are you asking the
What's the
question
point?
male or fucking female? Okay, because
I never knew.
one of the great things about watching that film is it's a different one every time. I would say male, but then you would think like it's two females. Drink a story. And then they just sits there and just like. There's a lot of drinking going on in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah. Not
That
as much.
was-
Yeah.
Also, I realized
It was
said
never a question for me when I was watching it. It's always every time I've watched it, it's always just been a guy.
okay.
I guess, yeah.
Like
Story
and,
after story,
and to me that was like the whole
Story.
point.
Story.
It's like, it was like she can drink a big burly guy under the table.
Also, it helped me realize Nepal was a place. Like when I was,
Apparently I said Tibet, but apparently, you're right. It's
Yeah.
Nepal. They're in Cap.
I also said Jonathan Rhys-Meyers.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of Jonathan
Dracula.
Davies. Yeah.
or
not,
Velvet Goldmine.
Not Sala.
but yeah.
Not Sala. Or MI3.
Yeah.
Let's think MI3. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about that scene because that's a great action scene.
My favorite, my one perfect shot in. There's a couple. I mean,
Is Nazi Elton John screaming,
running out into the snow.
putting his hand in the snow.
Yeah,
that
like
guy
a
gets-
cartoon
yeah.
character.
That guy was gonna quit acting kind of like the actress who plays what's her face in Man of Steel, and also
Diane Lane.
no,
Oh no, Annette Trow.
yeah, and also Rooney Mara during the Nightmare on Elm Street. Like these are people who are going to quit acting, and then
Christoph Waltz was thinking about it before he got Inglourious.
Yeah, thank God he didn't. But
We are humping.
Because then we wouldn't have got that. We wouldn't have got Django Unchained, which is the fucking best thing ever. But that shootout, I guarantee if you go to my Netflix right now, or not Netflix, or if is it still on Netflix?
I don't know.
If it's still on Netflix,
I have it on Vudu.
Me too. But if it's on Netflix, I guarantee you it's queued up at that scene, and my Vudu is queued up on the scene for the shootout because that is like the fucking best thing ever.
It is the madness.
It's my favorite thing. Can we watch that after this? That's my favorite scene of all time. Sorry, Raiders. It's Django and Jane's bloody shootout.
Pause this podcast and go to Jake's Voodoo account.
Yeah. Another funny thing, a nice little like I swear I won't say every single blooper that I remember because I can't remember them all. But one of my favorite bloopers in this scene is
I want to watch Raiders.
When he's firing his gun, he's shooting a revolver and he ducks around the corner and he comes back out. He's firing a .45 pistol. Nice. And I remember like that either he fucking quick change like fuck, or. But I've always associated the revolver with Indiana Jones, not the semi-automatic 45. Although that's very pulpy to have the 45, not the revolver. That's very Phantom or Shadow.
Yeah.
But yeah, that whole scene. I remember my brother and I always had this whenever we see it. This is inside.
Shoots them.
And he goes, shoots them both.
And like when the dude gets like only see his shadow and he's just like his shoulders.
But that is a great moment because then you see Nazi Elton John like fall over and he's like,
But no, for me, one of the most like one perfect shots is when Indiana Jones, you see his shadow before you see him.
Sure. Oh yeah, absolutely. I also like
that's what I was thinking when you were starting to say that.
My brother and I always have this thing like even if we're not drinking and now we'll look at each other and just go whiskey when he's just like leaning over and Marion hands it to him. Yeah. You see, all right, great. This movie's PG. The PG-13 hadn't existed yet. Temple of Doom was instrumental in getting that made. But you see a guy get shot in the fucking face. Like he's on fire and then he gets shot in between the eyes and blood is like that's pretty intense.
Yeah. Simpler time.
Yeah, simpler times. But yeah, anyway,
kids could watch a guy get shot in the face.
That's a great fucking scene, man.
That's a great scene. It's a great shot. And the other shot is when he first leaves the bar and she calls after him like, "What are you afraid of, Indiana Jones?" And you just
see her around, Indiana Jones.
You just see like the light in his eyes.
He stops. He's like, "Oh shit, I fucked it up already," and he keeps going.
I had to pay for this fight.
I love like moments like this.
I'm your goddamn partner.
I'm your goddamn partner. I love moments like this, and the moment is when they have the hot poker. They're gonna like stab her in the eye or whatever they're gonna do, and they go. And all of a sudden, the whip comes out of nowhere and grabs it back, and it's just like, oh yeah. And he's got his. I love that this is a little character thing. And it's a human thing, but his leather jacket is zipped all the way up because it's cold outside. Like, you know what I mean? He doesn't have it like cool open like Temple of Doom. It's zipped all the way up because it's fucking cold. He's got his gloves on. Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty great. When I dressed up as Indiana Jones when I was a kid, I did Raiders Indy because I made sure to like have the gloves. Like I wore the gloves that he wears in the Nepal scene, so you knew it was Raiders of the Lost Ark Indiana Jones, not Last Crusade Indiana Jones. I guess I could have just wore the tie to be Last Crusade.
Because Jake don't shiv.
No.
The other one perfect shot for me, like I guess I have to name two. The other and another one would be The Idol, but another one is when they're digging, Indy's crew's digging the Well of Souls.
Oh, in the right place.
Oh,
yeah. And you get the sunset.
Oh,
and you get the sunset, and it's just like him like putting on the fedora and everything.
I also like it doesn't age well, but the shitty like lightning in the background. Oof. But it's like very like 1930s like pulp thing.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and like of course, did you think that the corpses in the Well of Souls were like undead?
Yeah. Well, because they go, oh,
yeah, they have
in the background,
like Crowder and stuff. Yeah. And there's the one with like the giant like boa constrictor coming out its mouth, and
it just
like,
looks like a creepy tongue.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, that's metal as shit.
That is metal as fuck. But yeah, there's one of them is screaming and shaking, and I remember thinking, I also like that she fucking burns Indy because she thinks his whip is a snake. He's like, Jesus.
And then later in Temple of Doom, he gets burned to wake him up out of the thing.
I love you, Indy. yeah. Indy, and there's like the creepy like, I love you.
Oh God.
Was Indiana sleeping with Short Round too?
I don't. That was not brought up in
we
the
established
audio.
that he's a crap? Have we established that he's that creepy?
We've established that he's committed statutory rape at least once,
Okay.
according to the apocrypha for the film.
Gross.
Yeah,
Here
very
is something
gross.
I just found out. Okay. The character is named Regan.
Like The Exorcist. Jake.
Or Reagan, I guess Regan.
Reagan's theme.
According to this Indiana Jones wiki, gender, male.
Okay, all right.
And
We're
this
settled.
fucking bullshit advertisement. I fucking hate Just let me look at the fucking page.
Mm-hmm.
Shit bird. I fucking hate the world. Okay, here we go. Australian. Professions, climber. Regan was an Australian climber. That's all it says on the wiki.
Male
I like
Australian
that it says
climber.
was, because they'd be led to believe that he fucking died of alcohol poisoning during that shit.
I mean, his eyes don't close.
Yeah. He's like...
That's his last moment on this mortal coil.
He's just like, well, good day.
Yeah. Oh, my.
That's another shrimp on the Barbie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, do you know the Easter egg with the 3PO and
Mhm.
R2 on the symbols when they
Mhm.
pull out the?
Well, the souls, yeah.
That was always pretty cool.
Pretty damn great.
Pretty. I mean, so.
I mean, as much... The only part for me, and I don't think it slows it down because obviously it's setting up so much, but is the moment with where they're giving the backstory to the Ark in the college. I mean, that's a key moment.
I love that
but
moment. Yeah,
It's a great moment, but once that's over, that movie fucking rolls, dude. Like this with the action set piece after action set piece after action set piece. You know,
the one thing I never really liked. I never really liked that the fake out with Marion's death.
yeah, that
It's like,
was
why? Why
Was it just to bum Indy out, I guess, and prove that he really loved? I mean, it's not really needed. I mean,
He could still be bummed out if they made off with her.
yeah,
You know, which they do. So,
yeah. I do also love in the end where he goes to every movie does this. Star Wars does this, where he beats up a guy to wear his uniform, and the uniform doesn't fit.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the few times I've ever seen that happen. And so the other officer, is like, "Good dog," and like shows up and he kicks the shit out of him.
Yeah.
And then he kicks him one more time, and his hat goes flying in the air, and he catches it, and then uses that instead.
Yeah, you get the little like Raiders salute.
Yeah, and then he like goes out of his way to almost blow the mission by shouldering Belloc as he walks by. Remember, like they walk by each other. He's like, "Fuck you."
Yeah, just because he can't,
Yeah.
tolerate.
Speaking of Raiders, have you guys watched Raiders, that fan film, that documentary?
I have not.
It's on Netflix now. I rented it when it was on. I
The
think
actual
Vudu.
the documentary about the
making the greatest fan film. It's fascinating. It's really really fascinating. Anybody obviously you guys who enjoy Indiana Jones or anything or just the imagination and like spending summers playing Indiana Jones with your friends. It's really worth checking out.
I wish I could have done something like that with kids growing up. I tried to film things with like neighborhood friends and stuff like that, but they never wanted to partake.
I mean, I would play Indiana Jones. We never filmed it, but
Yeah.
we'd play Indiana Jones all the time, of course. So that's Raiders. Any other favorite moments? There's so many, but I think those are the big.
Yeah, we mentioned the like Nazi Zangief getting like beat up and then
Oh yeah,
cut
getting
up.
propellered. Yeah.
Yeah. The entire my favorite. There's actually a surprising amount of humor in the film,
Oh yeah.
particularly in the beginning of like the marketplace scene where
In
it's
the
almost
mirror.
like, the mirror is for me. The funniest, where he's just like checking out his wounds he suffered,
Yeah.
and the scream. It's not like a.
Yeah.
It's not like a sudden.
It's prolonged.
It's almost like a goofy like
It's just like
Yeah.
I can't like it's like he's a bad guy in Star Fox dying.
yeah.
You know.
cocky little freaks. And then she's like, "What?" Also,
you say something.
Raiders is the movie that taught me like whenever I go on a plane, I want to sleep. I put the hat over my face.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, me too.
Samesies.
I do that because of Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I don't even.
It also
wear
makes
hats,
sense,
really.
but I do that because of
But
Indiana
you-
Jones.
You whip out a hat to put over your
Yeah,
face.
when I do, and I go to sleep, and I sleep a lot. That's what I do.
Yeah, you got to put the hat over your face.
Yeah. So, how many fedoras do you have?
I have a couple. I mean, a lot of them have been thrown away or on the wayside because
Yeah.
I have a fucking massive head.
Yeah.
And so the two that have survived is the first one I bought was like a straw white hat, and it was a Mickey Mouse. The little like whatever you want to call it. The thing around the hat, the band. Thank you. Yeah. Is red with a Mickey Mouse around it, and that's because you got
it at Disney World.
You got it at Disney World, and then I go to the Indiana Jones shop and I'd buy a shirt. I have a bunch of Raiders shirts and stuff. I have a really great shirt that's way too small now, but it's the poster of Raiders, not the classic one with like him with like the jacket off and the white shirt. It's the one with him. He's got the jacket on, and it's like
and he's just
big Indy with the whip
with the white border and stuff,
with the whip over the side and stuff.
From the creators of Jaws and Star Wars.
Yeah, it's so fucking good. But when I was in Roanoke and I was going to be Indiana Jones for Halloween, I had like money because I had a job, and I was like a mostly grown man. I went to like it was a leather shop or whatever, and they had like the replica hat there, and it was like this moment where I was like, oh fuck, and I bought the hat, and that's the hat I still have. I used it this past Halloween when I went to a friend's house for a party, but
you walked in and you were like, I need something that screams Daddy likes leather.
Yeah, and I was like, he said, well, here's a hat that's not leather. So yeah, I have, those are the two, and I still have the white Mickey Mouse hat. Obviously doesn't fit; it's all kind of beat up, but that's one of my favorite just pieces from my childhood, because I wore, like, if you look at any photos of me when I was a little kid, I wore that all the time because that was the closest I felt to being like Indiana Jones because the hat. I mean, that hat is as famous as the man himself.
Yeah.
And the stories you hear about him trying to keep that hat on his head, that must have just...
You see him, like, jokingly, like, try to staple it to his head.
Yeah.
Like, behind the scenes.
Yeah. God, that must have been, like... Do you think it was... I mean, the behind the scenes made it seem like it was fun, but that had to be a fun set to be on.
I think so. Dysentery aside.
Yeah, dysentery aside, yeah.
It was the most fun dysentery you've ever had.
Yeah. Apparently, Karen Allen got along a lot better with him on the set of... Came with Crystal Skull. She found him a little more withdrawn.
I like Karen Allen. I mean, she's the one, She's obviously the one.
Who was never going to be Willie.
No.
Thank God.
And it couldn't be Elsa.
Yeah.
Allison Duty.
Elsa never believed in the grail.
I can reach it.
That, for me, we'll get there. That's the most, like, relaxing thing in the world, where it's just like Indiana. Let it go. Let it go, son.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
And then Frozen just comes in.
No.
No. Not on this one. Also, you get like...
What's your favorite line in this? Is it like... yeah.
It's not that, but I was going to say that's one of the most quoted lines in the movie.
Men.
Top men.
Fools. Bureaucratic fools.
Here. And here. And here.
My favorite is probably It's Not the Years, It's the Mileage.
I don't know.
My favorite...
Adios, Zapatos.
My favorite was always the...
Throw me the idol, I'll throw you the whip.
The exchange of, like, Indy saying, snakes. Why did it have to be snakes? And
asps.
Then, like... he comes up and he's like, asps. Very dangerous. Every time I hear it, though, I expect him to be like, asps. Why did it have to be asps?
Yeah.
Which is why it's my favorite.
I mean, yeah, those are all so... I mean, it's such a great fucking movie. And I also love there was a period where with my comic collection, I was worried it would turn into the warehouse from Raiders of the Lost Ark.
You mean Area 51?
Basically, yeah, as we find out later. And I guess...
Yeah, they make more references to Raiders than any other movie.
Yeah.
Within their own series, yeah.
Last Crusade, they do it once.
They even bring in Karen Allen.
Yeah.
And then they do it multiple times in 4.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's so much. There's just so many, blow it back to God.
Yeah. That was probably the goriest thing I saw at that age.
That I remember seeing that fucked me up, man. Like, the last thing I expected to see was a shriveled Nazi, a melted Nazi, and an exploding Nazi.
I always kind of like get uneasy when she turns into the Angel of Death.
Oh, that music cue is so fucking good. I mean, that was one of my favorite things to listen to, aside from the march, was the dun, 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 and their face turns. Oh, it's so metal. Yeah. Like I said,
and then the one Nazi turns into like Patrick from SpongeBob SquarePants. before.
And they just all get zapped.
Yeah, the one cameraman that gets it like in the eyes too. Just
Yeah. They turn into Spawn's army from the Spawn movie.
Yeah. Gifts
man.
before gifts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that always like freaked me the fuck out. You know, one dude shriveling up, one dude melting, and Belloc exploding isn't that bad, but everything else, yeah. And honestly, Shrivel Up Man isn't that bad. It's really just the melting man.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Indiana Nazi Elton John melting.
Supposedly
you could buy a candle.
Yeah, I was about to say someone made a candle that does that while it melts. Like I think it has like the skull and then like the wax melts through it like eyes.
I think it's also the gargling noises as his eyes melt back into his head.
Yeah, fall out almost like through the frame. Yeah, man. But yeah, I mean, what a movie! It really is like one of the best, one of the all-timers.
You know,
and it's the 35th anniversary.
Yes, it is.
All right.
Nominated for Best Picture.
Truth be told, I constantly forget how much I love this movie, and like someone will be like, "Hey, let's watch Indiana Jones," and I'm like, "Do I really want to watch Indiana?" But then as soon as it like kicks on, I'm like, "Oh yeah, fuck yeah, I want to watch Indiana Jones."
Yeah. Is it a voodoo bundle of the bundle and save? Because I'd bundle and save.
Wait. Sorry, more of the Regan thing has downloaded.
Oh.
Regan was a customer at the Raven, Nepal in 1936. The Australian climber engaged the bar's proprietor, Marion Ravenwood, in a drinking contest and lost. Now, let me see. Regan was played by Patrick Durkin in Raiders of the Lost Ark, but was credited as Australian climber. Sorry, I thought it was more to the sentence. I didn't end it properly. But was credited as Australian climber. In the comic book adaptation of the film, Marion calls him Red. It is unclear whether this is a nickname or not. In the Lego video games, Reagan and the drinking contest are not present for obvious reasons. So again, he's in Raiders of the Lost Ark novel, first appearance. Raiders of the Lost Ark, the movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark comic, and Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark Junior novelization mentioned only. So there you go, man. There you go. What Patrick Durkin? Let me take a quick look at what's going on with Patrick Durkin. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
Great radio.
Dun, 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 dun. We do this in every episode.
That's true.
But yeah, Patrick Durkin. I wonder what else he's done here.
Another funny moment I'm thinking about it is remember when during the truck sequence when like the dude falls on the windshield and Indy and the Nazi stop fighting and they're like they both laugh about it and then he punches him in the fucking face and kicks him out. No, it really, I mean, it's one of the greatest films of all time, guys. It's you know, if you've never seen it, first off, why are you listening? Second off,
what are you doing with your life?
Yeah, watch it. It's one of the greats. It really is. So, you guys got anything to add?
No, I mean, like you said, it's the best. I think it's a perfect movie. It's up there as one of the greatest of all time.
Oh, I think we don't get any better than that. Well, thanks for listening for the first installment of To Be Determined, Geek Out To Be Determined, because every week we'll be not every week. We don't do this every fucking week, but we'll be determining it, you know, pretty often, and we're in the middle of this Indiana Jones kick, so obviously you know where we're going to go next. This has been an inaugural installment. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jake.
Thanks for listening. This has been another Geek Out production. If you enjoyed what you heard, hey, you know, we've got a new commentary every Monday. We've got a special episode every Friday. Of course, there's the usual catching up show every Wednesday. And you get book club episodes just about every Tuesday these days. Thanks for listening.
Patrick Durkin is dead.